As we reported to you early in the broadcast, an alarming new study out today, a study that finds 1.5 million American jobs lost from 1989 to 2003 because of our trade policies with China specifically. Joining me now from Washington is Robert Scott. He's the author of the study for the Economic Policy Institute, and from Buffalo, New York, I'm joined by Jack Davis as well. He has first-hand experience on the impact of companies choosing to manufacture products in cheap foreign labor markets, founder of the Save American Jobs Association. Good to have you both here.
Thank you, Lou.
Let me begin with you, Robert. This study, as you know, we report and have reported here for some time extensively on these loss of jobs to cheap labor markets. But to quantify this, 1.5 million jobs lost to China specifically over a 14-year period, were you stunned by the scale of what you found?
Well, not only is the overall scale shocking, Lou, but the acceleration is just terrifying. The rate of job loss to China per year has doubled just in the last 2 years since China joined the WTO.
Well, with that acceleration, and obviously with the second term, the Bush administration means to continue the policies that it carried out during the first term, and which were the same policies carried out by 2 terms of the Clinton administration. Is there any hope that you can see of a reversal in course here?
Well, I think that there's 2 things that we can do. First, we can cajole the Chinese into making their currency much more fairly valued. They've been buying up hundreds of billions of dollars to depress the value of their currency. This is not only hurting the United States, it's hurting the Europeans as well. And I think it's time that Europe and Japan and the U.S. got together to put very high levels of pressure on the Chinese to revalue their currency.
Jack, you're a businessman, you employ people, you've lost jobs in business to cheap competition from China. Others call it globalization. I'm sure you have a separate word for it. But you also ran for Congress, trying to save jobs and farms and business, and the voters didn't buy it. Is it your sense that Americans just simply don't care what happens to middle-class working men and women in this country?
No, I don't think my failure to win the election had anything to do with that. It was a gerrymandered district with a lot more Republicans in it than Democrats. When I got my message out, they voted for me. I started with very low numbers and ended up with 44% of the vote and over 115,000 votes. So people get the message when you get it out, and you're doing a great job. You are my #1 fan. We are on the same mission, and let's work together. So keep it up.
Well, I like what you're saying, but I don't think I can get involved in your politics nonetheless.
No, this is Save American Jobs Association is nonpartisan. This is a grassroots organization. I've just started to get the message out, and being here tonight helps me, and it helps America.
Well, let's talk.
Disagree with.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead, Jack.
I'd say I disagree with some of those numbers. I thought Bob's number was low. I used the figure of for every $1 billion in sales, we lose 13,000 jobs. So I think we've lost over 2 million jobs over the last period, the 8 years or 10 years that Robert presented.
Well, one of the numbers, and I guess I should let you respond to that, Robert, Jack, is I think deploring your conservatism in your research here.
That's fine. I'll take 2 million jobs anytime. I think the point is that we're suffering massive job loss, and even more importantly, China is moving rapidly up the product ladder. Instead of just exporting textiles and apparel to us, now it's advanced technology products and automobile parts, and that's really eating the heart out of American industry.
China accounts for the entire $32 billion of the U.S. trade deficit in advanced technology products. I mean, that is stunning, because many of the U.S. multinationals, economists, part of the great orthodoxy on so-called free trade, suggest we are a technology, services-driven economy, and we can't be bothered with little things like manufacturing and mid-level technology. We're more of a sophisticated than all that. That's stunning, Robert.
Well, I think that's right, Lou, and I think the problem is that, in particular, the deal to bring China into the WTO was designed to help multinational companies maximize their profits, and it ignored the national interest of the U.S. as being a location for production and value creation and the creation and maintenance of good jobs and healthy communities.
Let me ask you both. What do you think must be done right now, and I'll start with you, Jack, to reverse this trend?
Okay. We need a balanced trade. And to get balanced trade, we need tariffs to balance the trade. If China wants to sell to us, they have to buy an equal dollar value of product from the United States. That would balance the trade and solve all our problems and create jobs in the United States. One of the other factors here that I wanted to mention, it's not just this money going overseas to China. They're coming back and buying our companies.
Right.
Last week it was announced that IBM selling their PC division to China, and there was an article in the Wall Street Journal indicating that they may buy Unical. These are crown jewel companies, the United States, and we're buying trinkets from them, and they're buying crown jewels of our corporations. This
Jack,
is
I may have misspoken earlier. I may be able to get involved in your politics. Robert, let me ask you this: your best suggestion for a policy change here that will staunch the bleeding and provide some assurance to the idea that our middle class, our working men and women in this country, can compete with labor that is making a 20th or even less than they are, not enjoying the standard of living that we have come to think is our birthright as Americans. What in the world are we going to do?
Well, Lou, we've already talked about the exchange rate. I think that's critical. But beyond that, I think we have to recognize that China is the worst violator of human rights in the world, and they're not paying their people, or preventing them from joining labor unions. This is a tremendous subsidy to the cost of production, and we've got to compel China to open up its economy to the modern world of free labor rights.
Robert Scott, Jack Davis, gentlemen, we thank you for being here.